Silence. It's one of the most underestimated responses after heartbreak. When someone walks away, when they choose distance over understanding, your first instinct is often to fill the space they've left, to call, to text, to explain, to prove that the connection was real, because silence feels un-BBR-erable. It feels like surrender, like weakness, like giving up. But in truth, silence is not weakness, it's wisdom, it's control. It's the quiet strength that says, I may hurt, but I will not beg. After heartbreak, everyone expects noise. They expect the crying, the long messages, the attempts to fix what's already fallen apart. They expect to feel your energy still chasing them because that confirms they still have power. But when you choose silence, something shifts. The moment you stop reacting, stop explaining, stop trying to be understood, you take back the power that was once in their hands. Silence becomes your boundary. It becomes the line that says, I respect myself enough to let go with dignity. Silence exposes truth. When you go quiet, you begin to see who was genuinely invested and who only thrived on your attention. Those who truly cared will notice your absence not because you said something, but because they can feel the space you once filled. The others, the ones who only wanted control, will crumble when your silence removes their supply of validation. That's when the power dynamic changes. Because what used to be their comfort, your emotional availability, suddenly disappears. In silence, they are forced to face themselves. They replay the last words. They wonder if you were angry, if you've moved on, if you were happier without them. Their mind becomes the noise that your words used to be. That's why silence after heartbreak is not passive, it's active. It's psychological. It forces reflection not only in them, but also in you. It allows you to feel without reacting, to grieve without performing, and to rebuild without depending on their response. When you speak in pain, you often lose clarity. You say things you later regret. You try to DBR, offend your worth to someone who already made up their mind. But when you fall silent, you give yourself the gift of emotional distance. You stop trying to convince them and start remembering who you were before they made you question yourself. Silence isn't about ignoring them. It's about honoring your peace. It's about refusing to hand over your energy to a situation that no longer deserves it. That's where your real power lives, in restraint. Anyone can react. Anyone can shout, text, or plead, but only the emotionally strong can choose to stay still when everything inside them wants to rebreach out. That kind of silence is powerful because it's not empty. It's full of self-respect. It's full of understanding that your worth isn't something that needs to be proven. It's something that simply is. And the beauty of silence is that it always reveals the truth with time. People eventually show who they are when why. You stop chasing them. The one who valued you will notice your absence and reflect. The one who only valued control will get angry or indifferent. Either way, your silence becomes a mirror that reflects their real intentions. It's not about manipulation. It's about observatio bar N. You see more clearly from stillness than from chaos. Silence also teaches you something deeper, how to sit with yourself. Because heartbreak isn't just the loss of another person. It's also the loss of who you were when you were with them. You have to relearn how to exist without their validatio bar N. You have to face the quiet moments when no one texts, when no one calls, when no one checks in. And in that stillness, you begin to rebuild your sense of self piece by piece. It's not easy. In the beginning, silence feels like a void, but slowly it becomes peace. The same silence that once felt unbearable becomes comforting. It becomes a sanctuary, a reminder that your emotions no longer depend on someone else's attention. You stop waiting for them to realize what they lost, and you start realizing what you've gained: control, clarity, and strength. And when they finally notice your sibilance, when they reach out, confused by your calm, you won't even need to explain, because by then, your silence will have already spoken for you. It will have said, I've grown, I've healed, I've moved on. That's the paradox of silence after heartbreak. The less you say, the more powerful you become. You stop being the one chasing closure, and you become the one embodying it. Silence becomes the language of self-worth. And through it, you finally realize that the one who stays quiet isn't T, the one who lost power. It's the one who found it. There comes a moment after every heartbreak when you realize that chaos has become your normal. The constant noise of overthinking, replaying every word, analyzing every moment, it consumes you. You start wondering what you did wrong, what you could have said differently, why they stopped caring the way they once did. It's exhausting, not just emotionally, but spiritually. Pain becomes your language. But the truth is, pain is loud only until peace arrives, because peace doesn't argue, it transforms. And when you finally choose peace over pain, it echoes louder than anything your heartbreak could ever scream. Peace is not something that magically appears one morning. It's a decision, a deliberate choice to stop letting pain narrate your story. When you decide that your mental and emotional well-being matter more than understanding someone who chose to walk away, you begin to shift the power back to yourself. You stop chasing explanation bias from people who are never willing to offer clarity. You stop reopening wounds for the sake of temporary comfort. And that moment, that quiet personal declaration, is when your peace begins to grow. Pain feeds on attention. It survives through replaying memories, checking their updates, wondering if they've moved on. Every time you feed pain, you strengthen it. But peace grows in silence. It doesn't need to prove a point. It doesn't need validation. It just needs you to stop fighting against reality. Because sometimes the closure you were searching for is simply acceptance. Accepting that what's done is done. That not every chapter is meant to continue. That peace doesn't mean you don't care anymore. It means you've finally stopped letting pain control you. When you find peace, something beautiful happens. Your energy changes. You start responding differently. You no longer engage in the drama, the back and forth, the emotional roller coaster that once drained you. You become centered, calm, grounded. People around you feel it too, even the one who caused your pain. Because peace is not invisible, it radiates. It shifts your tone, your posture, your presence. It's the quiet confidence that says, I no longer need to fight for what I've already outgrown. And the echo of that peace is powerful because it reaches the places your pain never could. The person who hurt you will feel it even from a distance. Not because you were trying to make them regret, but because calm energy is magnetic. When they see that you no longer react, no longer chase, no longer crumble, they start questioning their own choices. Your peace becomes their mirror. It forces them to confront the stability they lost and the chaos they created. That is the irony of growth. When you stop trying to prove your worth becomes undeniable. But peace isn't about being untouched by emotion. It's not numbness. It's understanding. It's feeling everything deeply, but choosing not to let it control you. It's crying one night and still waking up the next morning, determined to move forward. It's saying, yes, I loved, I lost, but I'm still here, whole, wiser, calmer. That kind of peace is born from emotional maturity, from the realization that not every storm deserves your reaction. Pain screams for attention. It wants to be heard, validated, and justified. But peace doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need to prove how strong it is. It just exists. And in that stillness, you find freedom. Because once you've experienced true peace, drama becomes distasteful. You stop seeking chaos disguised as passion. You stop needing to be understood by people who were never willing to listen. You simply protect your space, not out of fear, but out of respect for your own growth. The loudest thing about you will never be your pain. It will be your calm after it. That energy, the unbothered, stable, centered version of you speaks volumes. It tells the world, I've been through the fire and I didn't come out angry, I came out free. Peace doesn't erase your past, it redeems it. It takes what hurt you and turns it into wisdom. It transforms the ache into understanding, the loss into lesson, and the heartbreak into higher ground. When you reach that level of peace, not being external can shake you the way it once did. You stop being reactive and you start being intentional. You move differently, speak differently, love differently, because now you know that peace is not something you find in another person, it's something you create within yourself. And once you have it, you protect it like the rare treasure it is. In the end, pain might get attention, but peace gets respect. Pain might make noise, but peace makes impact. Because while pain may shout for a moment, peace stays. It lingers, it echoes. It becomes the proof that no heartbreak, no loss, no gooba-deeby has the power to destroy you. It only ever had the power to shape you into someone stronger, wiser, and infinitely calmer than before. Closure, it's the word we cling to when love ends without answers, when someone walks away without explanation, when messages go unanswered, when emotions hang heavy in the air like unfinished sentences. You tell yourself, if they would just talk to me one last time, if they would just explain why, I could move on. But closure doesn't come from someone else's honesty. It comes from your decision to stop waiting for it. Because the truth is, the best closure you will ever get isn't their return, it as your growth. When someone leaves, it creates a void, not just of their presence, but of certainty. You begin replaying memories, searching for clues, rewriting moments to make sense of what went wrong. You start asking, did they ever love me? Was it ABRLL real? Was I not enough? That's the painful part about unfinished endings. You become addicted to questions that have no answers. You think that if they came back and explained everything, the ache would disappear. But even if they did, even if they returned with apologies, explanations, or GuiberLT, it wouldn't fix the hole left behind. Because closure doesn't come from words. It comes from healing. Closure is not something they give you, it's something you claim for yourself. It's when you stop seeking peace from the person who broke it. It's when you realize that the same person who caused but ed the wound cannot be the one to heal it. And that realization, while painful, is powerful because it's the moment you shift your focus inward from why did they leave me to why am I still giving this pain power? That's where true closure begins, not in understanding them, but in rediscovering yourself. When you start growing after heartbreak, something inside you changes. You no longer wait for their text to validate your worth. You stop scrolling through their pictures, stop comparing yourself to whoever came next. You start feeding your energy into things that build you, not bury you. You wake up one day and realize you didn't think about them the moment you opened your eyes. And that small victory feels like freedom, that growth, that closure. The irony is that people often come back when you no longer need them to. When your energy shifts, when your peace becomes ruder than your pain, they feel it. They sense that their absence no longer defines you. And sometimes that's when they reach out, not because they've changed, but because your calm unsettles them. But by then you've evolved. You've built a version of yourself that no longer seeks validation through being chosen. You now understand that real closure is when their return doesn't shake you anymore. Growth teaches you perspective. You start seeing things differently, not through the lens of heartbreak, but through the clarity of self-awareness. You realize that maybe their leaving wasn't reject but redirection. That maybe the relationship wasn't a loss, but a lesson. Every heartbreak teaches you something about your boundaries, your capacity to love, your resilience. Growth transforms pain into wisdom. And once you've reached that stage, you no longer want closure from them. You hank them silently for the lesson that forced you to rise. There's a deep peace that comes when you stop waiting for the apology you deserve. Because waiting keeps you chained to the past, but growing frees you. Growth means you no longer want to go back and fix things, you want to move forward and build better ones. You start recognizing patterns, healing old wounds, forgiving yourself for ignoring red flags. You stop needing to understand their choices and start understanding your own worth. That's closure. That's the kind that lasts. When you grow, you change the story. What used to be they hurt me becomes I learned from it. What used to be they left me becomes I outgrew them. That's how healing rewrites pain, by shifting it from something that defines you to something that refines you. Growth doesn't erase the memory, but it removes the emotional control that memory had over you. It doesn't mean you forget what happened. It means you've made peace with it. And the most beautiful part, when you finally reach that peace, their return doesn't tempt you. You no longer crave their validation, their presence, or their explanation, because you've become the closure you were waiting for. You've built a life so fulfilling, so calm, so rooted in self-respect that the idea of returning to what broke you no longer appeals to you. That's when you know you've grown, when your heart no longer wants what once destroyed it. So yes, you may never get the apology you RV'd, you may never get the clarity you wanted, but you will get something far more valuable, a stronger version of yourself, one that no longer begs for closure because it's already found it within. Because in the end, their return isn't the resolution your growth is. There comes a moment in every person's life when something happens that feels too heavy to carry, a heartbreak, a betrayal, a failure that shakes your sense of self. You stand there staring at the pieces, wondering how you will ever put yourself back together. The pain feels permanent and your confidence feels shattered. Booba tea time has a way of revealing something powerful. What was meant to break you doesn't destroy you. It becomes the evidence of your strength. The very moments that brought you to your knees are the same ones that prove how much power you've always had inside you. Pain tests who you are at your core. It strips away the masks, the illusions, the comfort zones. It exposes your fears, your insecurities, and your limits. In the moment, that exposure feels unbearable, but it's the beginning of transformation, because real strength isn't born in comfort. It's born in discomfort. It's born in the moments when you think you've reached your limit and somehow you still find a way to stand. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every fall, they were not signs of weakness, they were proof of resilience. You see, strength isn't loud. It doesn't always look like confidence or boldness. Sometimes strength looks like waking up when you don't want to. It looks like choosing to try again after being hurt. It looks like forgiving yourself for staying too long, for trusting too deeply, for loving too blindly. Strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, I'll try again tomorrow. The barrier that was meant to break you becomes the place where your endurance grows. It forces you to build muscles of patience, understanding, and self-worth that you never needed before. When you're in the middle of the storm, you don't see growth, you just see chaos. You don't realize that every tear is watering something within you, that every disappointment is clearing space for something new. The universe has a strange way of using pain to redirect us, to refine us, to prepare us. And even though in the moment it feels cruel, when you look back, you see it was necessary. Because without that barrier, you might never have discovered the depth of your strength. Think about it. The people who inspire you most are not the ones who had an easy journey. They were the ones who faced darkness and still chose light. They were the ones who could have given up but didn't. That's what makes them magnetic, not their perfection, but their persistence. And you have that same strength within you. The difference is you don't see it yet. You're still in the building phase. But every time you choose to keep going, every time you refuse to let pain harden you, you're reproving something to yourself, that you are stronger than your circumstances. Sometimes the things that were meant to break you actually build the most unshakable parts of your character. The heartbreak teaches you boundaries. The failure teaches you resilience. The betrayal teaches you self-trust. The loss teaches you gratitude. The pain shapes you into someone who no longer settles for less than they deserve. And when you finally reach that level of awareness, you stop resenting what happened. You start respecting it, because you see that without those moments, you wouldn't have evolved into the person you are becoming. What was meant to break you also reveals who truly stands beside you. Hard times have a way of stripping your circle down to the real ones. Pain is a filter. Removes the people who are only there for your shine and keeps the ones who stay for your scars. That clarity itself is a form of strength. You stop chasing validation and start appreciating authenticity. You stop begging for loyalty and start recognizing it in silence, in consistency, in actions. That shift is part of what makes you powerful, because you stop needing others to carry your strength for you. There's a kind of beauty that only imeba urges from brokenness, a raw, grounded, authentic kind of beauty. You become softer in understanding, but stronger in boundaries. You learn to love without losing yourself. You learn that peace is not the absence of pain, but the ability to remain centered in the middle of it. The pain that was once your enemy becomes your teacher, showing you that you can bend without breaking. And one day, without even realizing it, you will look back and see that the things that once made you cry now make you wise. The people who once hurt you taught you what real connection looks like. The moments that broke you built the foundation of the person you were proud to be today. You will see that survival wasn't your only achievement, transformation was. That's the truth about pain. It's temporary, but the strength it builds is permanent. What was meant to break you becomes your proof. Your proof that you can endure, that you can rise, that you can rebuild. And once you've lived through something that was supposed to destroy you, you start walking differently. Not arrogantly, but peacefully, because now you know you've already faced the worst and you still here, still standing, still strong.